Have you ever wondered how some simple gestures or thoughts can control how you are perceived by the world and even how you see yourself? In today's video, you'll discover secret truths about the power of the mind that will change the way you face life. And I assure you, fact number 8 will surprise even the most skeptical like me. So stay until the end to find out how something as simple as a change in attitude can completely transform your relationships and even your own image. Before we begin, if you enjoy learning more about the power of the mind and want to continue receiving content like this, subscribe to the channel now and activate the notification bell. And of course, like this video so more people can access these discoveries. Imagine being in a room full of people where no one knows you. What do they really see when they look at you? Is it just your appearance, or is there something deeper that defines that perception? Once, a young woman named Clara, always shy and insecure, believed that people saw her as someone plain. For years, she avoided mirrors, thinking she would never be noticed. But one day, something changed. Clara read about a psychological study that showed people tend to be seen as 20% more attractive than they believe themselves to be. This discovery changed her worldview. Clara began to work on her self-confidence, adopting small changes, not only in her posture but in how she thought about herself. And that's when the magic happened. She realized that the true power lay not in how she saw herself in the mirror, but in how she presented her attitude to the world. Gradually, Clara saw doors opening, at work, in relationships, and even in friendships. What seemed like a simple change in thought ended up transforming her life completely. Clara, who once hid behind her own insecurity, began to realize that the way she viewed herself was more limiting than anything else. By changing the way she thought about herself, she felt something inside her liberating. Her posture, once slouched and defensive, now reflected confidence. She began to walk with her head held high, shoulders back, and her presence soon caught the attention of those around her. At a work party where Clara would have previously felt invisible, something unexpected happened. People began to approach her, engaged in conversations she led with a sparkle in her eyes. What changed? It wasn't her appearance or the clothes she wore, it was the magnetism of her self-confidence. And this was reflected in every gesture and smile she offered. The young woman who once believed she was unnoticed was now recognized, not for who she appeared to be, but for the energy and security she radiated. What Clara discovered was the true secret of personal magnetism. When you believe in yourself, the world around you begins to believe too. She realized that opportunities didn't arise by chance, but because her new attitude created a field of attraction. In no time, she was promoted at work, formed new friendships, and most importantly, learned to value herself. And all of this began with a simple change in mindset. What if I told you that you too can undergo this transformation? Clara's story is a powerful reminder that the first step to changing how others see us starts with how we see ourselves. Want to know how to apply these changes in your life? Keep watching, because the secrets I'm about to reveal next might be what you need to unlock your true potential. Clara began to notice that the colors around her had a much greater impact than she had imagined. Previously, her wardrobe was filled with neutral and dark tones, reflecting her reserved and discreet emotional state. Over time, as she explored more about the psychology of colors, she discovered that each shade we choose can directly influence our mood and even the way others perceive us. Vibrant colors like red and yellow are associated with feelings of energy, confidence, and optimism. Clara decided to take a risk and add more of these colors to her life, both in her clothing and her personal environment. As the days went by, the impact was surprising. When she wore a red coat to a work event, Clara immediately noticed that people seemed more likely to approach her. Conversations flowed more easily, and she felt that her inner glow was finally being reflected to the outside world. This simple change in color choice made her feel more secure, and that confidence was perceived by others, resulting in new opportunities both personally and professionally. Science explains that colors influence our emotions in subtle but powerful ways, evoking feelings that can alter the course of a day or even an entire career. Additionally, Clara learned that just as red can convey confidence and passion, Other colors have distinct meanings. Blue, for example, conveys calmness and confidence, while black denotes power and sophistication. With this newfound knowledge, she began to use colors strategically, choosing specific shades according to the situations she would face. If she was going to an important meeting, she would opt for shades of blue and black, conveying authority and professionalism. In social events, she preferred red or yellow, creating a warmer and friendlier atmosphere. By understanding the psychological effect of colors, Clara found a simple yet highly effective way to influence her surroundings and improve her interactions. This discovery not only helped her stand out, but also reinforced her internally. Each carefully chosen piece of clothing represented another piece of the new Clara, a woman who understood the power of psychology and perception and knew how to use these tools to her advantage. The influence of colors went far beyond aesthetics. She was learning the art of using these nuances to her benefit, creating an image that reflected her growing self-confidence and determination. More and more, Clara realized that often, small external changes could create significant transformations in how people viewed her, but above all, how she felt about herself. Clara also discovered that the saying, "You are what you wear," has a basis in scientific truth. Studies have shown that what we wear not only alters the way others perceive us, but also affects how we feel about ourselves. Over the years, Clara had adopted a simple, almost neutral wardrobe, which was a direct reflection of her lack of confidence. However, as she began experimenting with new pieces and styles, she soon realized that dressing for success was not just a matter of fashion, but of mindset. At first, the changes were subtle. She started with small additions: a well-fitted blazer, a shirt in a bolder color, shoes that made her feel taller and more confident. And with each new piece came a new sense of power. Clara understood that her clothes were not merely an exterior layer, but rather an extension of her own identity. By dressing with care and intention, she began to feel as if she was preparing to face the world more confidently. In work meetings, her posture changed, her voice projected with more firmness, and the people around her began to notice this new presence. But the true impact was not just in the impressions she made on others, it was in how Clara viewed herself. Her clothes now made her feel strong, capable, ready for any challenge that came her way. Psychological studies suggest that this phenomenon is known as enclothed cognition, where what we wear affects our cognition and behavior. For Clara, dressing for success meant much more than following trends. It meant adopting a successful attitude even before leaving home. Every morning when choosing her outfit, she was not just picking what to wear, but also who she would be that day. This new habit transformed her outlook on the future. Clara realized that clothes could be a powerful tool for self-transformation. She was no longer just an insecure young woman trying to fit in. Now, she was shaping her own identity and influencing how others perceived her. When you dress like the person you want to be, something extraordinary happens. The world begins to treat you according to that image. Clara had learned one of the most important lessons of her journey. What we wear can indeed change our destiny. It wasn't just the choice of clothes that changed Clara's life, but also the way she carried her body. Once, she read a study that showed how posture directly affects how we are perceived and even how we feel. She began to practice keeping her shoulders back, head held high, and gaze steady. This simple adjustment in the way she walked and moved made her appear more confident and approachable, which immediately reflected in her social interactions. People who had previously overlooked her started to come closer. Her new posture not only made her seem more confident, but also influenced her own feelings. Psychologists call this body feedback. When we adjust our body, our brain follows suit, releasing hormones that make us feel more powerful. Clara realized that by maintaining a confident posture, it wasn't just the outside world reacting. She began to feel that confidence internally. And this made her more assertive, more present, and more engaged in all conversations, whether at work or in casual encounters. Moreover, Clara noticed that her posture was a very powerful form of nonverbal communication. Even in situations where she didn't say a word, her body was speaking for her. She started to study more about body language and learned that the way we move can say a lot about our intention, and emotional state. With time, she became a more attentive observer, noticing how people around her also projected their own feelings through their posture. This helped her better understand others and adapt her own presence to positively influence situations. This subtle adjustment in her posture took her to a new level of social interaction. Instead of going unnoticed, Clara now stood out in groups and events. People naturally gravitated toward her, not because she had drastically changed her appearance, but because her attitude now reflected an unshakable confidence. What began as a physical correction transformed into an internal revolution, changing not only how she saw herself, but also how the world reacted to her presence. Clara also learned the importance of observing the behavior of others, especially in social interactions. During a lecture on social psychology, she discovered that the way people behave in small matters can reveal a lot about their reliability. For example, people who speak little but do so precisely and directly tend to be seen as more trustworthy, while those who talk too much, sharing every detail, tend to undermine trust without realizing it. This information opened Clara's eyes to the social dynamics around her. She began to pay more attention to conversations, noticing how people who were discreet and measured in their words often gained more respect and attention. This made her reconsider her own way of speaking and sharing information. Instead of trying to fill every silence with words, she learned to pause, reflect, and speak only what was necessary. As a result, her credibility increased. Her colleagues began to trust her opinions more, and her friendships became deeper and more genuine. The discreet and reserved behavior she started to adopt also helped her recognize patterns in others. She noticed that those who talked a lot about themselves often did so out of insecurity, while those who were more contained tended to be more self-assured. Clara learned to read these nuances, which helped her make better decisions about whom to trust and how to position herself in different social interactions. This change in her behavior did not go unnoticed. Over time, Clara became a trusted person among those around her, both at work and in her social circle. Her ability to observe, listen, and choose her words wisely made her stand out as a natural leader, someone people could rely on without hesitation. What began as a simple shift in posture evolved into a complete change in her way of interacting with the world, solidifying her transformation. After observing the behavior of others, Clara understood that talking too much is not always synonymous with confidence or wisdom. On the contrary, she realized that many people tried to fill silence with irrelevant information just to appear more interesting or self-assured. However, this excess of words often compromised the image they wanted to convey. The more someone talked, the more evident their insecurity became. Reflecting on this, Clara began to adjust her own behavior. She, who previously had the habit of trying to explain everything in minute detail to feel understood, started to value the power of conciseness. By speaking less and being more objective, her presence became more impactful. In work meetings, for example, her voice was heard with more attention. Her opinions, more concise and clear, began to be valued for their precision and relevance. Clara discovered that less truly was more. This change was not easy at first. Clara had to learn to control the impulse to talk too much, especially when she felt anxious or in new situations. But over time, she began to notice the benefits. The silence that once frightened her was now a powerful communication tool. And interestingly, this behavior attracted more people around her, eager to hear what she had to say. Clara had transformed one of her greatest insecurities into one of her greatest strengths. By positioning herself this way, Clara also began to inspire others. Colleagues and friends noticed how she communicated clearly and impactfully without getting lost in long explanations, and this generated respect. She was no longer just a good listener, but an excellent communicator. The secret lay in knowing when and what to say, without ever wasting words. During this journey of self-discovery, Clara came across fascinating information about how our hormones affect the way we communicate. She learned that it is not just our thoughts that shape our words, but also the hormonal levels in our body. One example of this is testosterone, a hormone that influences both men and women. Studies have shown that adequate levels of testosterone can help us feel more confident and assertive, while low levels can make us feel insecure or apathetic. Clara began to understand that, on some days, when she felt more withdrawn or nervous, this could have a physiological explanation, not just a psychological one. By recognizing the impact of hormones, she decided to take control of her health by implementing small changes in her routine to balance her hormone levels. She started doing more strength exercises, like weightlifting, and engaging in activities that stimulated the natural production of positive hormones, like endorphins and dopamine. These activities not only improved her physical condition, but also brought her new mental and emotional clarity. She felt more prepared to face challenges, and as a result, her communication became more fluid and assured. What once seemed a mystery, why on some days she communicated better than on others, now made sense. Clara realized that her hormonal well-being was a crucial factor in her performance during social and professional interactions. Understanding this relationship between hormones and behavior allowed Clara to adjust her routine to enhance her communication and self-confidence. She no longer depended on good days or feeling inspired to communicate well. Now, she had the necessary tools to create her own energy and confidence, even on the most challenging days. This emotional and physical self-sufficiency transformed her way of interacting with the world around her. Over time, Clara deepened her research into the role of testosterone in her emotions and communication. She learned that, although this hormone is often associated with men, it is also crucial for women, directly impacting their energy, focus, and assertiveness. On days when she felt particularly motivated and focused, Clara noticed that her testosterone levels were more balanced as a result of her new exercise routines and healthier eating habits. But there were days when she felt more unmotivated and low on energy. In those moments, she understood that her body needed adjustments. Just as she had learned to understand the psychological signals from her mind, she was now more attentive to the signals from her body. This new awareness led her to seek balance between body and mind, knowing that both were deeply interconnected. The more she took care of her physical health, the more Clara noticed positive changes in her social interactions and at work. She also realized that by balancing her hormones, she was not only improving her mental performance, but also reducing the stress and anxiety that had previously seemed constant in her life. This led her to achieve a more stable emotional state and, consequently, more effective communication. The impact was visible in her work meetings, where she was now seen as a firm leader with clear and assertive opinions. What Clara didn't know was that her body, in harmony, was what was facilitating this transformation. By embracing this journey of self-discovery and self-care, Clara learned that the confidence and clarity she sought did not come from external sources, but from within herself. Testosterone and hormones in general were now allies in this new phase of her life. And each day, she felt stronger, more balanced, and more prepared to face whatever came her way. Clara soon realized that body and mind could not be treated as separate entities. What she did with her body directly affected her mind, and consequently, her social and professional life. Regular physical exercise not only increased her strength, but also her ability to concentrate and make quick, precise decisions. Clara no longer viewed exercise as a mere physical obligation, but as a way to nourish her brain. Over time, she noticed that after each workout session, her ideas flowed more easily, and her problem-solving ability became sharper. Instead of feeling overwhelmed by the daily stress, Clara discovered that physical activity served as a release valve, allowing her to reorganize her thoughts and return to work or her social interactions with a clearer and more focused mind. It was as if each workout cleared her mind and set the stage for a new day. Moreover, her energy and disposition became more consistent. Previously, she experienced frequent emotional ups and downs, which made it difficult to maintain the same quality of interaction with others. Now, with a routine of physical self-care, her mental clarity was reflected in her communication. She felt more confident expressing her ideas and knew that her positive energy was contagious, which led to her being more respected and admired by her colleagues and friends. By taking care of her body, Clara found a balance that brought her mental peace and emotional stability. She understood that a clear mind starts with a healthy body, and that the path to success in any area of life depended on this synergy between physical and mental. The care she devoted to her body was, in fact, a care she offered to her mind, and this harmony transformed her life for the better. After noticing the positive effects of physical exercise in her life, Clara began to pay attention to another interesting detail: the relationship between bodily movement and her ability to communicate. She observed that on days when she exercised, her conversations flowed better. There was a clarity of thought and an ease in expressing ideas that, before, seemed absent. The connection between body and mind had never been so evident to her. This made Clara reflect on how physical exercise was not just a tool for physical well-being, but also a key to unlocking her communicative potential. Research shows that physical activities release neurotransmitters like dopamine and serotonin, the famous happiness hormones, which help improve mood and consequently the way we relate to others. Clara noticed that on training days, her conversations at work were more assertive and engaging, and she was able to convey her ideas with greater confidence. She also began to realize that physical exercise helped relieve tension before important moments, such as presentations or meetings. Instead of feeling anxious and tense, she now took a walk or did a quick series of exercises before these events, which left her more relaxed and focused. And this was reflected in the way she spoke. Her voice was firmer, her words more precise, and the audience seemed to connect better with what she had to say. Therefore, regular exercise not only transformed her body, but also her ability to communicate. Clara understood that her body, when well cared for, was an essential tool for success in communication. Feeling more energized and confident, she was able to better engage the people around her and convey her ideas clearly and convincingly. And this, in itself, was a transformative change in her life. Clara had always been a big fan of movies, series, and books. She used to lose herself in fictional stories, almost as if she were living the lives of the characters. One day, while reading about the psychological impact of stories on our minds, Clara discovered something surprising. Our brain does not completely distinguish between reality and fiction. The emotions we experience when watching a drama or action movie, for example, can be as intense as those we feel during real-life events. This discovery made her rethink the type of content she consumed. If our emotions are influenced by the stories we live, even if fictitious, she realized she needed to be more selective about what she allowed into her mind. Clara understood that by constantly watching negative or stressful content, she was training her mind to feel more stress and anxiety. On the other hand, when she consumed inspiring stories, her emotional state improved. This understanding led her to choose stories that fostered positivity and motivation, and soon she noticed a difference in her mood and her way of facing daily life. Additionally, Clara noticed that her relationships also changed. Now, when sharing movies or books with her friends, she chose those that provided constructive emotions and reflections. This new habit helped create deeper and more meaningful conversations, strengthening her social bonds. What seemed like a simple change of habit in choosing entertainment turned into a powerful tool for self-knowledge and emotional development. With this new approach, Clara began to understand her own feelings better. She saw that just as a fictional story can make us cry, laugh, or reflect, the way we narrate our own lives also shapes our emotions. Thus, she started to write her own story more consciously, choosing the moments when she wanted to be the protagonist of her success, not her suffering. After realizing that her brain reacted the same way to real and fictional stimuli, Clara decided to observe the emotional impact of the content she consumed daily. Previously, she thought that watching the news, for instance, was just a way to stay informed. However, she noticed that frequently, these programs left her anxious and worried, negatively affecting her emotional state and energy throughout the day. Clara began to limit her consumption of news and sensationalist content. She decided that rather than focusing solely on negative information, she would seek sources that also provided solutions, stories of overcoming challenges, and inspiring examples. By doing this, she noticed that her conversations with friends and colleagues became less focused on problems and more centered on solutions and possibilities. The change was not just emotional, but also social. She was attracting people who, like her, sought a more positive outlook on life. Understanding how the consumption of negative content fueled her anxiety, Clara also began to practice moments of disconnection. Whenever she felt overwhelmed, she took a break from social media and allowed herself moments of silence or reflection. This not only helped her keep her mind clearer, but also reinforced her emotional and physical well-being. The change was profound. Clara no longer felt drained by external pressures, but rather strengthened by the clarity and tranquility she had gained. Clara understood that the digital environment, just like the physical one, needed to be organized for her benefit. Thus, she began to cultivate her mental diet, carefully choosing what she allowed into her mind and rejecting what did not contribute to her growth. This emotional balance helped her face everyday challenges with more serenity and confidence. With her new perspective on the impact of content on her emotions, Clara began to adopt daily practices to align her emotions with the content she consumed. She not only selected what to watch or read, but also consciously chose how she wanted to feel throughout the day. If she was in search of inspiration, for example, she opted for movies or books that offered messages of resilience and overcoming challenges. When she wanted to relax, she sought light and fun content that helped her disconnect from daily stress. This emotional alignment was not just a matter of entertainment choice, but a way to control how she wanted her mind to feel at the end of the day. And this practice began to expand into other areas of her life. Clara started to pay attention to conversations, environments, and people that caused her emotional discomfort, and took steps to distance herself from situations that did not contribute to her well-being. The power of choice, which once seemed limited, was now an active tool for change. Clara also developed a new habit. At the end of the day, she reflected on how she felt and how she could adjust her choices for the next day. This daily self-awareness process made her feel increasingly in control of her emotions and her life. She was no longer a victim of circumstances or what was happening around her, but the protagonist of her own emotional story. Over time, Clara realized that her emotions were deeply connected to her daily choices, and by making conscious adjustments, she was able to transform the way she faced life. What once seemed like just a small change in content consumption became a philosophy of life, where she constantly sought to align what she saw, heard, and experienced with the emotions she wanted to feel. One of Clara's greatest lessons was about the mind's ability to continuously transform. She discovered that the human brain is incredibly adaptable, and that neuroplasticity, the ability to create new neural connections, allows us to change our thought and behavior patterns throughout life. Previously, Clara believed that certain behaviors and insecurities were a fixed part of her personality, but by understanding neuroplasticity, she realized that she was constantly evolving. This revelation brought a sense of power and freedom to Clara. If the brain can change, then she was not stuck in her old ways of thinking and reacting. Instead, she could consciously create new mental habits, train her brain to focus on the positive, and develop more emotional resilience. Every time Clara tried something new, like changing her posture or adopting a new form of communication, she knew she was creating new connections in her brain, and these small changes, over time, would make a significant difference. Neuroplasticity not only offered Clara a new way to face her challenges, but also made her believe that she could continuously improve, regardless of her age or circumstances. This belief strengthened her motivation to keep investing in her personal growth. She began to see the brain as a muscle that, the more it was trained, the stronger and more adaptable it became. Clara intentionally practiced techniques that stimulated neuroplasticity, such as meditation and constant learning. Each new challenge she overcame became proof that her mind was capable of much more than she imagined, and with that, she felt her potential was infinite. It all depended on how much she was willing to train her mind to grow and adapt. One of the biggest changes in Clara's life was realizing the impact of empathy on her relationships and her own happiness. Previously, she used to isolate herself in her own worries and insecurities, believing that her lack of confidence prevented her from genuinely connecting with people. However, As Clara learned about the effects of empathy on the human brain, she began to understand that true strength did not lie merely in asserting oneself, but in deeply understanding others. She discovered that by practicing empathy, the brain releases oxytocin, the so-called love hormone, which not only strengthens emotional bonds, but also brings a sense of well-being and satisfaction. Clara began to apply this concept in her daily life, listening more attentively to the people around her, trying to understand their perspectives without judgment. Over time, her relationships became deeper, and she began to feel a richer emotional connection with friends, colleagues, and even strangers. Clara also realized that empathy not only improved her relationships, but also her own self-esteem. By understanding others' emotions, she began to be kinder to herself. The self-criticism that had previously dominated her thoughts gave way to self-compassion. She understood that, just like others, she also deserved to be treated with kindness and patience. The effect of this change was transformative. Clara not only felt that her social interactions were more meaningful, but also that her own emotional health had improved. Empathy, which she had once seen as a weakness, was now her greatest strength, both in personal relationships and at work. Clara had always been passionate about animals, especially her dog, Max, but it was only after studying the science of empathy that she realized how profound the bond between humans and their pets was. She discovered that, just like humans, dogs have the ability to understand their owner's emotions, responding empathetically to changes in mood. When Clara was sad, Max would always come close to her, offering comfort without the need for words. This connection made her reflect on how the unconditional love of an animal can have a positive impact on our mental health. Max was, in a way, a constant source of comfort and emotional security for Clara. When interacting with him, her brain released oxytocin, the same substance that is released when we are in moments of affection with other people. Clara began to value this bond even more, realizing that it was essential for her emotional well-being. Max also helped Clara understand the importance of being present in the moment. Animals do not worry about the future or dwell on the past. They live intensely in the now. This lesson of presence made Clara start practicing mindfulness in her own life. When she was with Max, she allowed herself to disconnect from her worries and just enjoy the moment, which brought a new sense of peace and clarity to her mind. This bond with her dog also strengthened her social interactions. Clara realized that by developing a relationship of empathy and care with Max, she was more prepared to apply these principles in her human relationships. Her dog, in a way, was her teacher of empathy and presence, teaching her to live a more balanced and emotionally healthy life. During her journey of self-discovery, Clara encountered a powerful concept, the law of attraction. She discovered that what we focus our thoughts and emotions on can shape the reality around us. At first, Clara was skeptical about the idea that positive thoughts could attract positive experiences. It seemed too mystical to be true. However, upon deeper investigation, she realized that the science behind it made sense. When you think positively and picture yourself achieving your goals, your brain starts to create new neural pathways that help you see opportunities where you once did not. Clara understood that the law of attraction was not magic, but a reflection of how our mind can influence our behavior and perception. If you believe you can achieve something, your brain automatically starts working towards it, filtering the information around you and guiding your actions towards success. Clara began to apply this philosophy in her own life. Instead of focusing on her fears and insecurities, she started visualizing her goals with clarity and confidence. She wrote her goals in a notebook, creating a detailed plan on how to achieve them. Every day, Clara set aside a few minutes to visualize her dreams as if they had already been realized, feeling the emotion of accomplishment. The impact was transformative. Soon, the opportunities that once seemed distant began to arise, and Clara felt she was finally in control of her reality. The law of attraction for Clara became more than a belief. It was a daily practice of visualization, intention, and action. She did not just wait for things to happen. She took action, creating the circumstances for her desires to materialize. The power of her thoughts was reflected in her actions, and her actions began to transform her life. Another concept that intrigued Clara was the placebo effect. She learned that the simple act of believing that something will have a positive effect can, in fact, generate real results. Scientific research has shown that the placebo effect can alleviate pain, improve health conditions, and even influence emotional state, even when the person knows they are taking something harmless, like a sugar pill. Clara was fascinated by the idea that our mind could be so powerful that it could trick our body into healing or improving just through belief. This made her reflect on how many times her own limiting beliefs had prevented her from reaching her goals. If the brain can turn a sugar pill into something effective just by suggestion, what else could Clara achieve if she changed her beliefs and attitudes towards herself? She began to apply this logic in small everyday situations. When she felt anxious or insecure before an important meeting, instead of allowing anxiety to take over, Clara spent a few minutes convincing herself that she was prepared, that everything would go well. The repetition of these affirmations, although it seemed simple, had a powerful effect. Over time, she realized that the confidence she felt while mentally preparing influenced her results directly. The power of the placebo effect was in her own mental state, and Clara decided to use it to her advantage. If her mind had the power to transform a belief into reality, then she could create the mental conditions necessary to achieve any goal. In this case, suggestion was not self-deception, but a tool for empowerment. Clara began to trust more and more in the power of her own convictions. Just as the mind can be a powerful ally, Clara also realized that it can be her biggest enemy when negative thoughts dominate. During her journey, she faced moments of doubt when her old beliefs and fears threatened to return. In those moments, Clara began to notice that negative thoughts not only affected her mood, but also her body, causing muscle tension, headaches, and fatigue. Clara understood that these negative thoughts functioned as silent saboteurs, undermining her confidence and her ability to act. Studies have shown that the constant repetition of pessimistic thoughts can reinforce negative patterns in the brain, making it more difficult to break the cycle of self-sabotage. Clara knew that to move forward, she needed to break these patterns and replace negative thoughts with positive affirmations. She began to practice the thought substitution technique. Whenever a limiting belief arose, such as "I am not good enough" or "this will never work," Clara immediately swapped that phrase for a positive affirmation, like "I am capable" or "everything is falling into place." Over time, this practice became a habit. She was no longer a hostage to her thoughts, but in control of them. By replacing the negative with the positive, Clara began to feel lighter, more confident, and ready to face new challenges. The change was not immediate, but Clara persisted. She knew that internal transformation required patience and repetition. Gradually, negative thoughts began to lose their power, and empowering beliefs took their place. What once seemed impossible was now just another step on her ladder of growth. Clara had learned to master her own thoughts, and with that she mastered her life. Clara also discovered a revolutionary concept that transformed her worldview: the growth mindset. Developed by psychologist Carol Dweck, this idea suggests that people can develop their abilities and intelligence through effort and dedication. Before learning about this, Clara believed that her talents and limitations were fixed. If she wasn't good at something, it simply wasn't meant for her. But upon understanding the growth mindset, everything changed. Clara realized that failure was not a sign of inability, but an opportunity to learn and improve. The idea that her abilities could be developed through practice and effort motivated her to tackle challenges that once frightened her. Instead of giving up at the first difficulties, she began to adopt the stance of, "I'm not good at this yet, but I will improve." This shift in mindset made her view her mistakes and failures differently. Instead of feeling defeated, Clara saw these moments as part of the growth process. Each mistake was an opportunity to adjust her approach and try again. As a result, she became more resilient, determined, and open to new experiences. Clara understood that success was not a matter of innate talent, but of persistence and continuous learning. The growth mindset also changed the way she viewed the success of others. Instead of feeling threatened or inferior, Clara started to draw inspiration from the stories of those who overcame obstacles and achieved great things. What these individuals had in common was not a special gift, but a constant attitude of growth. Clara decided to adopt this same attitude, and soon realized that with effort and dedication, nothing was impossible. Looking back at her journey, Clara recognized that the greatest challenges she faced were also those that transformed her the most. Each moment of difficulty, be it a poorly delivered presentation, a setback at work, or a personal disappointment, carried a valuable lesson. At first, these moments seemed insurmountable, but over time, Clara understood that each of them was preparing her for something greater. These challenges required Clara to step out of her comfort zone, face her fears, and adapt. And it was precisely in these situations that she experienced the most significant growth. What once seemed an insurmountable obstacle revealed itself to be a learning opportunity, and Clara learned to embrace these difficulties instead of avoiding them. By changing her perspective, she saw that challenges were not enemies but allies on her path of personal development. Each challenge Clara overcame made her stronger and more prepared to face the next one. This mindset of facing difficulties head-on instead of fleeing from them is what led her to become the confident and fulfilled person she is today. She learned that true change does not come in easy times, but in moments when we are tested and pushed to our limits. And it is exactly in those moments that we discover what we are truly capable of. Reflecting on her journey, Clara understood that the greatest challenges she faced were, in fact, disguised gifts. They shaped her, strengthened her, and revealed her true potential. Now, with a new perspective on herself and on life, she was ready for whatever the future might bring. Fact 01. People see you as 20% more attractive than you see yourself. This was Clara's first major insight and the initial spark of her transformation. When she read about this fact, something within her changed. The insecurities about her appearance, which prevented her from feeling confident, were challenged. Clara realized that her self-perception was much more critical than that of others. This encouraged her to work on her self-confidence by adjusting her posture and attitude rather than focusing solely on physical appearance. Fact 02. Posture directly influences how you feel. The physical change was the first step for Clara. She learned that by adjusting her posture, keeping her shoulders back, head held high, and walking with purpose, her brain released hormones that boosted her confidence. She noticed that this small body adjustment impacted both how people perceived her and how she felt inside. It was a turning point for Clara, who began using her posture as a tool to gain more confidence. Fact 3. A simple facial change, like smiling, can alter your mood. Clara always underestimated the power of a smile. Upon learning that smiling releases neurotransmitters such as dopamine and serotonin, which are responsible for making us feel happier, she started incorporating this small gesture into her routine. When she felt nervous or insecure, she forced a smile. This, almost magically, changed her disposition and attracted people around her. The smile, which once seemed like a simple gesture, became a tool for emotional change. Fact 04. Idealized memories are stronger than reality. When Clara began to feel more confident, she reflected on the past. Often, she realized that she was stuck in memories of failures and disappointments that didn't exactly match reality. She learned that we tend to idealize both good and bad moments, which can distort our view of the present. By understanding that her mind was creating an exaggerated version of her past experiences, Clara started focusing on the present and making more conscious decisions, no longer held hostage by memories. Fact 05. Music and scents can evoke powerful memories. Clara also discovered that sensory stimuli, such as a song or a familiar scent, have the power to transport us to specific moments in the past. She began to use this to her advantage, creating environments that evoke positive sensations, like listening to inspiring music and using scents that reminded her of happy times. These little tricks helped her stay focused and motivated, especially on challenging days. Fact 6. The way you dress influences your self-esteem and how others see you. By applying the concept of dress for success, Clara understood that her clothing was not just a reflection of her personality, but a powerful tool to enhance her self-esteem. By dressing confidently, her body and mind began to follow that same energy. People around her started to treat her with more respect, and she felt more self-assured in every interaction. Fact 07. The power of emotional reciprocity. A smile is contagious. Clara discovered that, in addition to changing her own mood, a smile can be contagious. When she smiled at someone, most of the time, she received a smile back. This cycle of emotional reciprocity not only made her feel good, but also created a positive atmosphere around her, strengthening her social connections and making her interactions more genuine and enjoyable. Fact 08. The brain processes reality and fiction similarly. During her journey, Clara realized that for the brain, the difference between fiction and reality can be subtle. This made her aware that the type of content she consumed, movies, books, even social media, directly influenced her mood and perceptions. By replacing toxic and negative content with inspiring narratives, she felt an immediate improvement in her emotional state. Clara began to use this awareness to nourish her mind with uplifting stories rather than draining ones. Fact 09. Our emotions influence our perception of the world. Clara noticed that her emotional state profoundly influenced how she perceived the world around her. When she was calmer and more confident, difficult situations seemed less challenging. On the other hand, on days of anxiety, everything felt out of control. By learning to regulate her emotions, she managed to change her perception of challenges and see them as opportunities for growth. Fact 10. The connection between humans and animals goes beyond the physical. With her dog Max, Clara discovered that the emotional bond between humans and their pets is deep and can have a real impact on mental health. The affection between her and Max released oxytocin in her brain, helping her feel more connected and loved. Max was not just her companion, but also a constant emotional support, showing Clara the value of pure and unconditional connections. Fact 11. The effect of the mind on the body. Negative thoughts can impact your physical health. Clara discovered that not only were her emotions shaped by her thoughts, but also her physical health. Recurring negative thoughts generated muscle tension, pain, and even insomnia. By learning to control her thoughts, replacing the negative with the positive, she began to notice a significant improvement in her overall health. Her body, previously tense and anxious, was now more relaxed and ready to face daily challenges. Fact 12. The mind can shape reality through suggestion. The power of the placebo effect. One of the most fascinating concepts Clara learned was the power of suggestion, exemplified by the placebo effect. She began to realize that just as our bodies can respond to harmless treatments by believing they will work, our minds can also create realities based on our beliefs. Clara started to apply this idea in her life, repeating positive affirmations and believing in her potential. She realized that by believing in her ability to succeed, she was shaping her reality to align with those beliefs. Fact 13. Confidence is the true source of attraction. Throughout her journey, Clara learned that true attraction does not lie in physical appearance, but in the confidence a person projects. Her internal transformation, which began with subtle changes in posture, clothing, and thought control, made her more attractive in the eyes of others, not for her looks, but for the positive and confident energy she began to radiate. This confidence, fueled by her new habits and beliefs, made Clara irresistibly magnetic in all aspects of her life.